guys, welcome to Northwest Connection. This episode, we're floating through the cosmic textures of post-rock dreamers Million Moons as they prepare to launch their new album into orbit. Expect shimmering guitars, lunar ambience, and a conversation that feels like a spacewalk through their creative universe. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome to Northwest Connection. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Thanks very much. We are 2 of 4 members of Million Moons, and I am Ed from Million Moons, based on the Isle of Mull, and
Jay. I play bass in Million Moons, and I'm based in London.
Who we missing? Before we get into that part, who are we missing this evening?
Missing Sol, our drummer, and Freddie, guitarist in the band. Us couldn't make it. They will be missed, of course. Put up with us too.
So come on now, where are you based?
if you pick the centre of gravity of all 4 of us, it's probably like near Birmingham somewhere, is it? But we're slightly unusual in that I'm looking out across to the hills of Ardnamurchan and Jay's looking out across to Leighton.
My back garden, which thankfully is quite green and tree laden right now, so it hides the school noise.
Yeah, but yeah, they all live within a few miles of each other, and then I have just this statistical outlier all the way up to the northwest, even further northwest than yourselves.
Definitely. I wouldn't want to do that commute myself either. Well, how, with the geography here, how did the band come together?
Well, I did used to be in London, and Sol and I and Jay as well used to play in various bands together in different kind of permutations, and there was always an aspiration for a post-rock side hustle, which kind of became the post-rock not side hustle, the sort of the main event, and now we have side hustles of the side hustle instead. And we've recruited, well, initially it was just myself and Solomon. Released the first album as a 2-piece, and we gigged. Our first gig was as a 2-piece. We did a couple of gigs as a 2-piece. It's really hard to kind of get the sound that we're after as 2, and incredibly complicated from a live perspective. There was an incredible amount of looping and automation and laptop-based control, which is just kind of pretty exhausting, at least for me. Solomon just, nothing all the merrier, just carries on playing, right? But yeah, I was there, but stressed out my head for every single show, which I still am, but to a slightly less degree now that we have more band members. And then we recruited Freddie, and we became 3, and then Jay as well. And Jay's actually kind of the first person I jammed with, I think, on the post-rock space before you moved out to Berlin, and then we didn't jam together anymore because you were so far away. The irony there, of course, now that I'm really far away, we don't jam anymore either.
Yeah, there was sort of this like little moment very early on before Million Moons was Million Moons, where I was learning guitar parts to jam with Ed on parts that would become Million Moons songs on the first record. And then I eventually ended up rejoining at the end of 2024, ahead of me moving back to, I say joining properly, moving back to the UK. Now here I am, which is kind of cool. It's a full circle moment. It's really nice.
It's very nice. It's very nice because we've known you for a long time, and that's obviously
so.
lovely.
Whilst Jay was in Berlin, was that just a test to see whether it can be done from Mull?
Well, when Jay was in Berlin, I was in Orkney, so it was
okay.
Arguably even harder. Yeah, but like the distance, I think. Sort of back in the day when you're playing, you're playing together, you're playing gigs, you need to practice together. We kind of got a routine dialed of, we play to click tracks, we've all got in-ears on stage. We learn the songs very well. I think it sounds really obvious, but like it's something which I put a lot of emphasis into making sure that they're absolutely dialed so that they learn the songs, the 3 of them. I relearn the songs that I'm supposed to have written. And then and sometimes we play a show and we play a new song without ever having rehearsed it. We did that in Glasgow this time round, and we played our single that just came out, Black Sun Rising, without ever having practiced it together. It sounded all right in the recording, thankfully, so that was good. Yeah, I think it kind of goes down to we're all fairly anxious sausages, because you channel that anxiety to just practicing again and again and again and making sure we're going to be okay, because otherwise, it gets stressful. But, you mess up inevitably at some points, but it's all good.
There's an element of of us down in London getting to practice together, which at least
Right, yeah.
I like to be very dialed in with Solomon. I mean, as the rhythm section, you know, that's pretty standard. So it is definitely good that he and I get to practice together quite regularly. Otherwise, I might lose my mind a bit.
So where did the band name come from?
Say it again, sorry.
Where did the band name come from?
That's a really good question. I had this question before and I can't really remember. Well, I think we were riffing on things like 2000 Trees is quite a cool name for a festival, for example. And it kind of just stemmed from seeing if you could pair numbers and interesting objects. I can't remember any other silly ones that we came up with. But I'll need to look back into the old archive notes and see if I can find any of the silly ones. But yeah, Million Moons seem to sort of work as a, you know, in the genre, it kind of fits really with regards to what we're trying to, the kind of sound that we have. And yeah, we stuck with that. And yeah,
It works.
there's definitely some cooler names out there. Din of Celestial Birds is a very cool name. And Abouille as well, obviously being French. So that's great for them. It's just, yeah, brilliant band names. Million Moons, we'll take it. The problem is, as soon as you've invested your time and released the records, that's you done. I love the story of Biffy Clyro, and they were offered a whopping deal, but subject to the condition that they change their name from Biffy Clyro. And they said no. They went their own way and signed with an indie label, and obviously they're massive.
I was going to say, I think it's all worked out for them in the end, really, hasn't it?
But it does go to show, I think you can kind of almost call yourself whatever you like, and you just end up being associated. As soon as people know of your music, then they know of the kind of, I hate to use the word brand because it's, you know, corporate and shit. But yeah, people know of your brand and that's kind of, how it goes.
So what was your musical background of each of you? How did you start playing music in the beginning?
Go for it, Jay.
7 years old. And, oh no, hang on, no, I tell you what, playing with a recorder in school.
Oh, bless.
I was in the recorder consort at my school. So we had a tenor recorder, a bass recorder, and the higher ones, I can't remember what they're called. That was kind of the start of my musical endeavors. And then I started learning guitar at 7, to electric guitar, in and out of it for years and years, kind of in and playing in various kind of small bands. And then decided to pick up bass 2 years, no, a year and a half ago, to play in Moons. That's a very truncated story, but I think I feel like a bassist now. Done quite a lot of work in trying to actually play like a bassist rather than like a guitarist who's learning bass. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things about the new record, I think, is the quality of the melodies and rhythms is really very good. I was playing bass on the last 2 and it's not nearly as good. It's brilliant. It's really lifted a lot of the tracks. We'll stop flirting, sorry.
It's been a while, hasn't it? So we'll allow it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was wondering, Jay, if you started, you know, was there such thing as like a drop C recorder? And were you playing it?
I suppose like you've got the tenor and the bass recorder. That
7-string.
Seriously, I think a bass recorder looks more like a sax. It's a weird little sax thing. Yeah, I can't remember. Maybe I'm totally wrong. And
I think you are right. I think I have seen one.
Something for our live set to think about.
Some of these are already up there as well with it.
The thing, so with this is a big tangent, and I'm sorry, but with recorders, you had like the descant recorder and the tenor recorder that were laid out in the same way and in the same pitch, and then you had bass recorder and the recorder that were different pitches or different layouts in terms of the notes. So the complexities in those instruments. But,
and with that, I reckon you can pick it up. At least in 2 years, I think you've got it down.
Okay, good. Here we go. Ed, don't get any ideas.
I've got so many ideas. I'm taking notes. Record.
How about you?
I started by annoying my parents by hitting pots and pans with wooden spoons, and they were like, "Do you stop messing up my pots and pans, please?" That was my mum. But they quickly realised I really wanted to play the drums, so they got me one of those little Yamaha with the pads electronic drum kit, but that would have been in Christmas 1998, and then a year later I got a full drum kit, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it was amazing. It is amazing when you lay down your first beats on drum. The same for any instrument really, but like I feel like drums is particularly, are either of you drummers?
No.
I can do a beat.
You can play, can't you?
It's just
Yeah.
the best. It's a shame that I don't play the drums in the band, but anyway, it is what it is. But yeah, then I started learning piano and a bit of church organ as well to add, which features on this record, which is nice. So we managed to bring that in. And then that was before I was a teenager. And then when I became a grumpy teenager, I picked up an electric guitar, and that's the arc, the narrative that most of us get into heavy music, and then that's that. And then kind of, I think you can sort of hear piano and organ work is very like classically influenced. And I think you can kind of hear that in some of the guitar work too. I think that comes across. Freddie has certainly a bit of classical influence in his guitar playing too. So I think that does come across on the record, or does it? I don't know. What do you think, Jay? I would say so.
I think so. I think across all of the albums, there's a lot of thought and creativity that definitely see the kind of link between the classical music and the way that Ed thinks about music and music theory and how it comes very naturally to him, I think. See, there's a lot of work that goes into understanding music theory, but it seems to come naturally to him. And that's coming from one who looks at music theory and goes,
So, who are your biggest musical influences individually? Oh, they're thinking about it.
Yeah. You would have thought that it's a fairly stock question, and you would have thought we have prepared answers, but it kind of, for me, it sort of depends a little bit on like which kind of side of the musical creativity I'm thinking about. But like for post rock, is very easy answers, like, you know, Caspian, Explosions, that kind of thing. Definitely on the heavier side. Some of Caspian's heavier tracks are just absolutely superb, and the kind of band that I would just, you know, love Million Moods to be, but isn't. But that's life. But also, you know, I can go back into the archive. Age 14, I was obsessed with everything that Matt Bellamy of Muse did, both guitar and piano stuff, and basically learnt the entire Muse back catalogue up to Black Holes and Revelations in the age of up to 17, I suppose. And then sort of branching out as well into those classical influences. So some stuff that Rachmaninoff does is Tchaikovsky's absolutely beautiful, like really, really cool. Kind of more modern things, Niels Fram, Philip Glass, like stuff like that. It's quite interesting. Whole plethora of like electronica and shoegaze and different bits of indie and dream pop as well. Yeah, it's really boring and vague, I suppose. That's the best, not the best answer. I don't really have anyone that I specifically idolize, I think, myself. But yeah, drawing on lots of different pots of influence to kind of create the stuff we do. How about you, Jay? Have you got more interesting answer than that?
well, I'm gonna lose my post rock card right off the bat here by saying my favorite band is Paramore. I think that Hayley Williams' latest record is absolutely fabulous. Being said, you know, I cut my teeth in guitar on Coheed and Cambria of pretty much everything they've ever done. I think that the way they approach guitar writing is so interesting, and in the way they can turn pop songs into prog epics without sounding like, while still sounding identifiably like hardcore almost and stuff like that is great. And like when I was still playing guitar, a lot of my influences, I guess, in the past 10, 15 years were Signals and Every Time I Die. Huge influences on my writing through various eras. Every Time I Die, probably in one of the projects that Ed and I were working together on, and some more recent stuff. And kind of coming to these days, I look at so I love math rock and math rock adjacent things. And around the time that I started learning bass for Moons, I discovered Paranoid Void, and their bassist, and I'm not even going to try and say her name, but their bassist is absolutely incredible. Like her chops, just ridiculous. And I kind of, she's a gold standard. I'm definitely nowhere near, but I listen to her playing a lot, and that's for me quite a big kind of influence in terms of where I would like to get to. Obviously, it's not necessarily like of the playing style that I would want to bring into Moons, but there's so much that I could kind of learn and want to take from that in a way. So anyway, that's a little bit of a kind of mad tour across my music taste. But
I think if it was up to the individual band members, I would be playing some kind of classical music. Solomon would be playing blast beats behind the drums. Freddie would be doing some definitely black metal. and then Jay would just be covering Every Time I Die, I think. But yeah, together.
I was going to say, that's how you get on our tangent. So we touched on it a little bit before as well. How does the songwriting process work? Obviously, with the distance, is it usually one person who comes in with an idea, or is it still a collaborative process?
So previously the first record was entirely me in my darkened bedroom being sad and writing sad music. And then record 2 was me in my equally dark but different bedroom in Orkney writing equally sad music. Record 3, the bedroom's got a little bit more light, as you can see. The music's still just as sad, but Freddie, there was quite a lot more back and forth between us. So there's a lot more of kind of Freddie's creativity, and he would send me bits and pieces, and I would sort of take stuff and run with it and expand it into a full-blown song. And then some songs would sort of, obviously the classic songwriting, some songs just write themselves. Others you have to slog away at them for a couple of weeks and then you sack them off because they're not good enough anyway. And you're like, oh. But yeah, the song we've just released, we had a melody for it, and then I was on a long drive through Scotland, as I do spend a lot of time driving through Scotland. And I actually wrote it on the drive, like just kind of beatboxing out the different bits. And I recorded the voice note, and somewhere I've still got the voice note of that song being recorded. I didn't know that it was going to like come to light in that way, but it was a slightly unusual way of writing. But yeah, it's come out really nicely. So lots of different ways.
I think we have definitely got a copy of that voice note in our group chat. It's a really interesting kind of insight into Ed's mind. The slow insanity of the road.
Yeah.
So
I think Sorry, I just finish up. Like quite a few people do actually write without any instruments, or they'll take a melody and then they go for a walk, and then they've kind of either whistle something into their phone or just like, oh, I have to remember that by the time I get home. Then you get home, then you've bloody forgotten.
Yeah, we've had that before. People just record into the phone, just a simple melody, but yeah, a little bit noisy. I was just going to ask, how did you figure out you could all write together? Was it instant chemistry, or did it take time to, for it all to come together?
I think this record was probably in line with the others. It probably took about 18 months to write, something like that. And we had probably finished by end of the summer last year. It was slow and steady, really. One thing that was different was that we only actually wrote, there's only one song that got sacked off compared to previous records where I probably wrote double the number that appear on the final record. And actually this one, we just spent an awful lot of time working with the ideas we have and just taking those initial ideas to full songs. And yeah, so I think that's quite different actually, because usually there's a lot of wastage, and like you write a song and you're like, oh, well, that's shite. Back that off. But actually this time we kind of really, maybe it's the case that we were just more careful with the ideas that we first presented, and we don't want to present, ideas to each other that were too shit. You're wasting everyone's time.
So
God, sorry, my dog started. We'll have to open the window, I'm afraid.
That's a first anyway.
It's awful. That's absolutely awful. She's so pleased with herself as well.
I'm not surprised. Good work.
That's Mango.
So, how do you know when a track's finished? And the backwards and forwards?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Some stuff like finishes itself, and you're very aware of when it's written and it's done, and you don't need to touch it. And other stuff you just tinker with for, well, I said weeks before, but really it's kind of months, and you go back to it and it teases you, and it's sat there and it's like, I'm not done yet. Are you going to carry on? And you're like, oh, yes. No. And like some stuff, and you think, I don't know, I'll write something, and then I'm like, yep, that's done. That's definitely done. That's definitely done. And then that little voice in my head goes, it's not though, is it? And I know what you're doing. What you're saying is done, and you're trying to lie to yourself to pretend that it's done so that you don't have to go, because you don't want to put the effort in to really think about it. And now I'm like, and there's just the mental battle. And eventually I'll sit down again and rewrite bits and collude with Freddie, collaborate, and then off we go. Yeah. But yeah, it's quite hard to know. Jay, what do you think?
So I come from a different kind of angle in terms of when I first hear the songs, they're probably kind of at nearer stages of completion broadly. So I think I'm kind of at that stage of kind of like, okay, well, this sounds pretty kind of near completion to me, like any little bits that kind of jump out to me. But honestly, I think the thing that comes down to, and this is signpost of Ed as a songwriter, is that it's very, very rare where once I hear a song and like something needs to change. I think like there was one song on the record which needed a bit of tinkering. Oh god, now I'm going to dig myself a hole. Actually, what was changed was Solomon changed the drum beat on the programming, and it completely changed like the vibe of a section of one of this song. That like completely kind of fit in my head, and it was just like, oh, like it's because sometimes it's so simple.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be fixed from not using the stock garage, but not garage, but Logic drum beats. They're like, oh, that's what a normal drummer sounds like. Great, okay, yeah. And yeah, Solomon spends quite a lot of time thinking about what to put where, and he's quite considered with his drums. Much as he loves also just hitting them really hard, he also hits them quite well, which is ideal.
So if you disagree on something musically, how do you usually settle it?
Go the highway.
Violence.
I'm still waiting for Knife Fight. Nobody's come out with Knife Fight yet.
Yeah. No, it's not quite. I won't pretend that it's like, we're not. Democracy doesn't really work for creativity. It's kind of, it's more that you would either do this or you do something else, if that makes sense. So like it's a song in terms of the way it is, or just you need another one, or it needs to be rewritten.
Right.
It's kind of, it doesn't having like votes on if how much reverb should be here, and whether that drum beat should be in. Well, firstly, there's 4 of us, so voting is often going to be split down the middle anyway. So numerically, it's a nightmare. Yeah.
From my perspective, I think it's an interesting one. Like, so Ed obviously came with these songs pretty much done and just went to me and went, some bass. There's some sort of like, there's some stuff here, make it your own. And honestly, for me, that was really cool because it also gave me a chance to go, do I stretch my legs? How do I challenge myself as someone who's learning bass and wanting to become more musical basic? And also like having that was like getting to sit down with Ed in the studio and kind of rewrite some parts as well. It allowed things to kind of breathe a bit more, at least from my perspective, and really kind of locked me into a sense of like, yeah, these songs are like feel right. And don't mean to kind of go off on a tangent there, but I just thought of something kind of jumped into my mind there in terms of like kind of finishing off the writing process. I think that's
So are you guys self-recording, or are you going into a studio?
We did. I had both Freddie and Jay come up to Mull, and we tracked all of the guitars in this room at different periods, which was lovely. We had nice time. We had some stressful times, but we also had some nice times.
150 takes or whatever it is I did.
and then most of the guitar work on my own, and then we did the drums at the ranch in Southampton with Lewis, and then Lewis did mix and mastering. Lewis Johns, that is. But yeah, there was a lot more music per second. Is that even a metric? No. So every sort of, in previous record, I tried to make it so that it was sort of, I would go for what was more kind of practical to be unplayable from a live perspective. And in this one, I went for what sounded exactly as I want it. So, and then I was like, well, I'll try and figure out the live stuff after I've done that. So every lead line, for example, will have a lead line where it's played, I don't know, some picking on the bridge pickup, and then it'll have one underneath it of the same note recorded in unison on the neck pickup, and then you blend the 2 tones, and then underneath that you'll have an octave that sits maybe with a clean or just slightly driven or just pure reverb underneath that, and then you get 4 different parts moving together in unison that sounds like one guitar, but a really kind of rich, warm, beautiful, like interesting guitar tones, like different guitar tones. And we were kind of going for a little bit of innovation in that. But my God, was it exhausting, because like you've got 3 parts and it ends up with 10 different guitar tracks. And you're like, oh God, or takes on takes and takes. And then it comes to the mix and you do the mix. I can't really hear it anyway. I
was going to ask, does that not make some of the stuff live difficult to perform? So many different layers.
Well, we get the effects pedals out, and then we have like I've started to run dual signal chains as well. So splitting the signal. So I have like an always on clean signal with its own reverbs associated with it, and then driven signals with its own signal path and its own reverbs associated, part of which, see, she's so bored. She's just like, as soon as he starts talking about pedals,
She's taking it.
and then, yeah, I can blend those back into a single amplifier, which for practical purposes is what you would generally do. But I can also split it into several amplifiers and several cabs. And I really want to do that at some point. But unfortunately, there's only so much room in the van.
The fun thing is we are actually going to be getting to try that out, actually. We're recording something next month. We might get to play with all of amps.
Stuff.
But yeah, sort of spending some time thinking about that and trying to minimize the number of backing tracks that we use in live space as well. So we use stuff to kind of support everything else, but you don't want to destroy the illusion of what you're actually trying to create from a sort of live perspective. You know, when I don't like the aesthetic of having a laptop on stage. We had that at the beginning when it was just myself and Solomon, but I don't really like that look. I like it to feel a little bit more organic and more kind of just instruments, and you can feel the connection of the instruments and what they're doing going through the amplifiers, and you can see the musicians doing instruments and making it sounds really obvious, but I think it's very easy to see. I think nowadays you do see sort of, or I think we're past the phase actually where people loading up lots onto backing tracks, and I think we're kind of returning to a sort of more organic, for want of a better word, but yeah, kind of more organic sound. It'd be nice to play with an orchestra, wouldn't it? And you know, all of these big things which are completely out of budget that'll never happen. But yeah, the sculpting of the live sound is very important to us as well, and we do spend quite a lot of time doing that. I'm not sure anyone else notices, but we do.
So if we come on to the live performances, is there something that you can do on stage now that you couldn't have pulled off in the early days?
Laughing at when I play wrong notes. I actually think that's really important. I would have really been like quite stressed out before. I'd be like, oh, you moron, what are you doing? Actually, that's quite a negative energy to have on stage. Actually, it's actually, do you know what? When it was just myself and Solomon, that was harder because obviously you play a wrong note and you are 100% of the melodies, so it's a bit more challenging. So now we can kind of disguise it underneath Freddie, but no, it was. I think that is actually really important, and it comes from just relaxing and maturing as a band as well. And you are going to make mistakes live, and yeah. I think that's what I would say. Jay, what do you reckon?
Bass.
Well, live bass, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, from my perspective, I think obviously always, like, in old bands, I would get so anxious on stage. I still do get very anxious on stage. Being in an environment where we can about mistakes definitely is a great thing. I think being more ambitious with what we can do or want to do on stage, and like in some recent shows, Ed's brought some extra drums along to get people from the crowd involved, stuff like that. And I think that's one thing that I think starting to do more now. Like a specific song, we've had people come on and hit some drums with us, which is really cool. Looking to do more things like that.
Yeah, I think the community aspect of post rock is really important to me. I mean, community aspect of all the different kind of communities that I'm involved with. Every time we go to a show, everyone's so bloody nice. It's just such a lovely vibe, and it's just such a joy to play to these people who are just so kind and considerate and so knowledgeable as well. I really like the community aspect, and we're developing a bit of a live set around seeing how we can get people who've never heard our music, see if we can get them to join in and play stuff with us on stage. So yeah, watch the space. But
what's your
we'll
favorite
pick you
memory?
out when we see you, Chris and Lee.
Yeah, go
On you come.
on. I was going to say, what's your favorite memory of a live performance so far?
It's got to be Offside Festival, hasn't it?
Side was very, very nice. Yeah, that was a lovely time. Yeah.
How did that come about?
Out of the blue. I mean, I think this was about 3 or 4 months into me joining. I hadn't even played my first show with the band yet, and we get this email out of the blue from like, hey, we run Offside Festival in China. Do you want to come and play this festival in May? I think this was in March time, and then May's like, oh, this is very soon, and we're like, hang on, this beer You're never sure. You are never sure. And then we did some due diligence and we spoke to some other artists who played before, and they only had positive things to say. And yeah, we just had to say yes. Still not entirely sure how they discovered us. I think it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, like we believe it's something to do with I think so be some time won the Where Post Rock Dwells audience poll for albums of the year in 2024. As I understand it, the of the festival main or booker of the festival follows Where Post Rock Dwells quite closely and discovered us off of that. I could be completely missing the mark here, but that's my understanding. I mean, honestly, that's a very cool way to sort of get discovered and get booked for a festival, because
I didn't know that. So that's nice.
this is the thing. Ed spends all his time writing the music, and I'm spending all my time being nerdy about stats and information and things.
So did that end up being your first gig, Jay, or did you play one before you got out to China?
My second gig.
Wow.
And my first was up in Glasgow with Hidden Mothers, which was very cool. And yeah, to go out to China and then suddenly being playing to this massive crowd on this big stage was a very experience, but also an absolutely incredible experience.
And it was. Given you both already said as well that you are quite anxious as people, how do you prepare for a live show, especially something like that?
Yeah, Ed, you go.
I don't drink, before live shows. That's something that people do to settle their nerves, but I don't. I try and just embrace the range of emotions that comes my way, which sounds very smug, but I think it just allows me to kind of sort of breathe through things and feel things naturally and just kind of, try to meditate on it rather than try to avoid it, if you see what I mean. And you can dispel a certain amount of nerves through proper rehearsal. Turns out that helps. If you're really well prepared, some of your nerves will go away. But yeah, with a show like that, I suppose, it's just, there's not a huge amount you can do to really kind of offset the strength of emotion that inevitably comes from playing to large crowd that is not on home turf as well. So you're just like, oh God, we could be well received. But the other thing is just, and also remember it, like really remember, and we had this chat like before we went on the stage there, and we have this a few times. It's like, just remember to enjoy it. Like, this is like a really great, joyous, unusual thing. And they're all really nice because we've met loads of people in the crowd already and, gone for like floor walks and just, and spoken to people, and just everyone wants you to do well, and just, try and remember to enjoy it, rather than stress about, oh, I didn't have the right reverb setting for that. Which is inevitably, we're quite self-critical afterwards, but we're very supportive as well, especially since you coming along, Jay, as well. I think remembering to be like, I know, we're fine. Like, that's fine. Don't worry about that. That's good. We had a good time. And like, it doesn't matter that your picking was slightly not quite correct.
That's to say, don't worry about it, and then the first to criticize myself, but that's another story. That offside show, interestingly, I ended up being less nervous going on stage than for any other Moon show. Spent about 10 minutes before our set just running up and down in the backstage area because I had all this nervous energy just trying to get it out. And then at some point I went, feeling in your body that is anxiety is exactly the same feeling as excitement. So harness it. And that's what I did for this set. I just reframed it, and I this radical acceptance, and I just went for it. I haven't been able to harness that for any show since, but it's fine, it's fine.
I would also point out another show actually that's quite special to me. It was the first time that we tried to involve people from the audience and I'd never done it before, and I was crapping myself because I was like, this could go really badly wrong. And we were playing at the New Cross Inn, which is just such a great venue and so supportive of so many different types of genres of music and just small bands in general. So big up New Cross Inn. And I was like, well, if somebody wants to come on stage and hit some drums with us, and it was our pal from Mount Farrell who came up, and I was like, of course, you're perfect for this. And I didn't know he was there, and he came on stage and I gave him the drumsticks and he absolutely went for it. And it was such a release. And I was like, this is amazing. It's never going to get better than this. But yeah, he was very good. And it was just such a lovely vibe. It was very, very nice. That sticks.
Is there a dream festival or venue you'd love to play?
Well, there's a few festivals that come to mind. Arctam, Dunk, Fest in the States. Inevitably, but I'll try and think of some cooler answers. Whilst Jay's
No,
giving-
I like them. That's fine.
don't get me wrong, those would be so cool, but I think it's some unusual venues.
Arc Tangent every year, and I have friends who have played it, and goodbye to friends, bands playing their final shows there and stuff like that. In some ways, it feels like it's a very, very, very special place for me. So many reasons, and I think being able to play that festival, that would be this bucket list stuff, really. But there are also other cool festivals available.
I would also say anywhere with a pipe organ, that would just be awesome. I would happily transcribe the entirety of our music onto pipe organ and play the set without using piano and guitar and just on pipe organ, and then learn about what stock configurations we should have at different parts of the song and get an organist to help me. That would be brilliant. And the imagine the acoustics.
Think when you play Manchester, you might be able to have your wish there.
You're joking.
There's something in the Castle Hotel, whether it's just the remains that is there or something, but there definitely was something there at one point.
Nice. Underneath recorder, I'm going to write pipe organ.
Don't hold me to that, though. As I say, it looks like there was something there at one point. I've only ever been there once, and it definitely looked like there was some sort of keyed instrument that used to be there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Check it out.
So, sing us out. Do you want to talk to us about the album, when it's coming?
Go on, Jay.
Like I said, okay. A new album coming out on the 26th of June. It's called You Be Good, I Love You, which is a nod to Alex the African grey parrot, who was the subject of a famous avian experiment or intelligence experiment. Through the work they did with this parrot, they discovered the parrots have the intelligence, understanding of human language, roughly a toddler. It's quite amazing. And the story goes that on the last night before this parrot, Alex, died, he said to his handler, "Be good, I love you." It's kind of where the title comes from. And concept behind the album, it's really supposed to be a celebration of animal, I guess, minds, animal lives. I'm losing my train of thought here. But yeah, they're kind of like getting audiences to kind of think deeper about these like emotionally rich lives that animals lead, things that go on behind we even understand, and there's so much we don't know about animals, and they actually lead these quite incredible existences that we don't understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, go.
It's just a little prompt to there is something that it is to be like a wasp, or there is a feeling that it is to be a penguin or a parrot or a human, and my experience of it is different to another human's, and it's different to a dog behind, and different to even tiny little microbial lives. Like, we can have discussions about consciousness and how it appears and all that kind of thing. I don't think we really know as a species exactly how it works, but just kind of a nod to the consideration of what it might like to be different kinds of creatures, and trying to ask questions about that, I suppose.
And what date will the album be out?
June, so Friday the 26th of June this year. So 2027.
So, and I think we were talking off air before as well, but we were talking about how quickly you turn this round from recording to release.
So a little tidbit of information. We got the masters, I think, 3 weeks before the first single, Black Sun Rising, came out. So yeah, I guess the story behind that is he decided on a release date for the album under the guise of some travel-related performing abroad plans. Now are no longer happening in the summer, but hopefully happening later in the year. By the time that kind of shifted, we'd already committed to this timeline. We'd already said, like, Lewis, like, kind of say, I can deliver by this date. And we were like, okay, well, we're going to go for it. We're going to lock into this. And like, the labels that we were working with had also been kind of on board with it. And we were like, okay, right, well, this is it now, let's go. So we said, yeah, we are going to release the record 3 months after we finished it. Because, fun than trying to do things in a tight turnaround.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I would definitely shout out the labels for being both very, very competent and patient, as well as Lewis as well, who's just so bloody good at what he does. It's just such a pleasure to work with him, and yeah, it's just been great. Mild anxieties at some points, of course, delivery timeline, but it's all good.
Oh, good.
And then there's the tour as well as after the album release.
So we've got a few dates lined up already. So we're playing London on the day the album comes out. Very exciting. And we'll be following that up with Leeds, Nottingham, and Manchester. The time this podcast comes out, we'll have announced Glasgow as well. So that's exciting. Hopefully we've got a couple more in the pipeline. May or may not have announced them by the time this pod comes out. But then obviously we are also playing Crowded Festival in October. All very exciting. Really looking forward to getting out and playing. I mean, few cities that we played before, but I think, we seem to get a warm welcome in these places. We love playing in Glasgow. Chester's always a good time. We haven't played in Leeds yet. In behind Bad Owl, Kerry and Stu are absolutely lovely, and we're really looking forward to playing that show. Yeah, I should shout out the bands that we're taking with us. So we've got Civil Service on board for then Leeds and Manchester, and then Kusanagi board for Nottingham and Manchester. I think Wildernesses are joining us for London as well, and they have all recently released a record, which is also very good.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
All awesome bands.
Some stacked lineups you got going out there with you.
Very, very exciting. Stacked not only with talent, but with some of the loveliest people on the planet.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I can't wait. It just makes touring life so much easier when you play
Yeah.
with lovely people,
We're going to move on to the fun questions now. So what was the first live gig or show you attended?
System of a Down at the Brixton Academy.
Good start.
41 at Wembley Arena.
Nice. I saw Sum 41 in 2011, and it was too late, far too late. It should have definitely been 10 years before. They're probably back now round to being fun again. I don't know if they're still together for touring.
Not together anymore.
Oh, are they not? Okay.
No.
Probably not then.
No, that show was on the Does This Look Infected tour. It's great. It was so cool. I loved it.
Who can't be trusted with the playlist in the van?
Freddie. So much metal. All the metal. Every time I die, every time I die, every time I die.
Honestly, I mean, I don't get to have control over the playlist because
For good reason.
I'm always driving. Because London contingent, I'm the only one with a driving license, so I have to request what I want to have on. Usually when I'm driving, I'm asking for some more pop stuff, to be honest. We get a lot of, our playlist gets a lot of interesting stuff, I would say. It's a good mix. It's a really varied mix, I think. So I'm there's no like outrageous contenders for adoptions
So diplomatic of you.
because I'm the problem.
If you could collab with one famous musician, past or present, who would it be?
Maybe like John Hopkins or someone like that, I think would be really cool. Or Yonsei from Sigur Rós. If I could have some of his wailing over the top of our songs, that would be amazing. Yeah,
I think that'd work really well.
that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Jay?
I don't think I could give such an interesting answer. I'm trying to think here. I'm just like, things that will always come to mind for someone like me is like, oh, if I collaborate with Sanchez, but that would not be relevant for a Million Moons record.
Doesn't need to be. you want to record with?
Just let me record some music with Claudio Sanchez and dig inside his mind.
Well, look, closer to home, so like or closer to the genre, like folk like A.A. Williams.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, that comes to mind.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, Emery Frundle.
Emery
She'd be
Frundle.
so cool to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of very cool, like adjacent, just basically 99% of artists in the Arctan space.
There's this new record from this Italian artist called Lily Refrain, and her sound is somewhere between Ethel Cain's Drone record and Chelsea Wolfe with some like neo folk in there. And she'd be so interesting to collaborate with because she's also like very like on stage, sort of like live looping and stuff like that with interesting instrument setups, and in front of her with a pedal board and stuff, and like yeah, she'd be very cool.
Million Moons are hired to soundtrack a video game. What genre would it be?
Be a fancy RP.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not really a gamer, so I'm not really the right person to ask. But
So actually, that being said, it could be something sci-fi. So a friend of mine who I shared Black Sun Rising with after it came out to me, that he imagined listening to it, or while he was listening to it, he imagined living a planet in no man's sky. I think it was kind of a very cool image to have. Like obviously,
that's
like
awesome.
so very like sci-fi epic. Yeah.
I mean, 65 Days absolutely smashed that. So I'm not sure we could. I would feel very awkward and clumsy.
All right, do you mind if we have a go? We'll move on to the quick fire questions now. Vinyl or streaming?
Yeah, vinyl.
Click track, yay or nay?
Well, not through the PA.
Star Wars or Dune?
Can I pass? Not gamer, not sci-fi. Go on, Jay. You can take
I don't have an answer to this question.
Okay, next, whiskey or rum?
whiskey. I'd be
What
kicked
way
out.
are explosions in the sky?
Now that's contentious.
Explosions in the sky for me.
My internet connection's
You gotta be careful what you say, really, haven't you, due to locality?
yeah.
No, just say something completely
Yeah.
different.
Actually, I would actually say mono. Of those three, I would say
Tea or coffee?
yeah.
Peep show or spaced?
Peep show.
For our final question, chippy curry poured over cornflakes or cornflakes on a kebab?
Mango, you take this one.
Jerk kebab.
I think the kebab. I reckon
Answer with Mango and Ed then.
she would love that. She would go wild for that. Wouldn't
Did you imagine the fart still later, Ed?
imagine.
That was perfect timing as well.
And she's like, what?
Talking about me?
Thanks for coming on, guys, and we'll see you on the road soon.
Thanks a lot for having us on. And
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, we'll see you either at Arctan again, or indeed, is there something you want?
Kebab with cornflakes.
Cornflakes. Suddenly you're like, I'm in.
And just remind us when the album's out.
June 26th, Friday the 26th, 2026.
Thanks again, guys. It's been a
Cheers.
pleasure.
So much. Appreciate it.